Yeah, well, it's about changing your game. And, back in 1974, when I first started coaching, I developed a role model, and the role model was the microchip, which people were just talking about the microchip around 1974. And the microchip basically takes the speed of information and puts it into a smaller space. So the constant evolution of microtechnology over the last going on 50, 60 years now has constantly pumped more and more information to more space. Well, since that was taken care of by the microchip, I decided to focus on another area and take the most actionable wisdom and pack it into the shortest period of time. And so what this does is that as you do this, you actually increase your impact on the planet. And so my thing, a little quote here from George Bernard Shaw, that progress is impossible without change. We know that the microchip is causing change. The question is, are you changing with it? So it really requires of mind shifts all the time, actually changing your mind. So I'm going to pack 41 years of coaching. Yeah, well, my original attempt was to pack 41 years of coaching into 50 minutes. That was my goal. But as I got thinking about it over the last month, I decided to pack it into 30 minutes and then leave some room for your wisdom in response to what I'm showing you. So I've taken my entire coaching career and broken it down into 3 graphics. One of them is a circle, the other one is 4 boxes, and the other one is a curve. So I'm going to go to the circle first. And what this circle really represents, and what I want you to do is to actually get your pen out, because we're going to actually write here. And the thing I'd like you to do is to consider this circle all of your time and all of your activities as they're presently devoted to your business. So the circle represents just where you are right now. And so in 15 minutes, I'm going to get you to change your mind about where you are right now. And then I have 4 boxes I'm going to show you. And in 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how you're going to change your mind about what you're going to do during the next 90 days. And then the upward curve that I spoke about, in 5 minutes, I'm going to show you how you're going to change your mind about what you're going to do for the next 25 years. So this is basically what I'm going to do in the next half hour. So the first thing I want you to do is to imagine this circle that it actually has 3 parts. And what this circle really represents is your emotional reaction to different things that you're actually doing right now. Snapshot of where you are right now. And what the first outer circle stands for, we call this A, and the second one we call B, and the third one we call C. And A stands for everything in your business right now, all the time that you're spending that really irritates you. So this is the irritating part of your life right now. How many of you can relate to that right away? Okay, yeah. And it's very important to actually tell the truth about what irritates you, because if you don't tell the truth about what irritates you, you can't actually do something else. The second part of what your life is right now is B, and this is the okay part of your business. And usually the okay part of your business is related to cash flow. Okay, how many of you are okay with cash flow? Okay, it's not irritating, but it's also, some of it is not very exciting. Okay, and then the third part, C, really represents the part of your business where you're spending your time and your action with that is really fascinating and motivating. Okay, so you're very fascinated with this. It's new, it's got a lot of promise, and it's very motivating because it looks like it's going to be really big. It's going to be a lot better. Okay, how many of you have all 3 of those right now? You have irritating, you have okay. Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you actually do a little list of the 3 most irritating things right now, okay? And people can be irritating. So how many of you have people who are irritating? Yeah. Situations, how many of you have situations that are irritating? Right? And how many of you just have activities or tasks that are very irritating? maybe obligations. How many of you have obligations that are irritating? Yeah. So anyway, it's just your truth, and I'm just going to give you an example of 3 of mine. And one of mine is spending any time with entrepreneurs who don't have any ambition. Okay, it seems like a wasted effort to me. How many of you realize that being an entrepreneur is a life sentence? How many of you know you can't go back? How many of you know they won't have you? How many of you wouldn't hire you? Okay, so that's really, so I tell people it's a life sentence. There's no out. And so don't do your life sentence in an irritating fashion. Actually get rid of the irritations. That's why you became an entrepreneur in the first place. Okay, so the second one for me is meetings that don't have any impact. Okay, so we have a tool in Strategic Coach which is called the impact filter. And what I require is that before we have a meeting, I want your impact filter the day before, because I don't want to spend half the meeting trying to figure out what the meeting's about. I want to know what the meeting's about the next day, and I don't ask anyone to meet with me unless they get an impact filter. And then the next one is non-strategic days and hours. So I have a time system where I only do 3 important things a day, okay? So sometimes I get my 3 important things done by 11 o'clock in the morning, and that's my day. The rest of the day is not for work, okay? And the reason why I figure 3 things a day is that in a 5-day work week, I get 15 important things done. How many of you, if you got 15 important things done in a week, that's a good week, okay? And I work 210 days a year. Babs is she who decides. So anyway, she who decides decided about 25 years ago that we'd take 155 free days a year. So we have which gives me 210 days. And if I do 3 important things, it's 630 important things, 630 important things in a year. How many of you, if you did 630 important things in a year, it would be a good year? And do that for 25 years, and good lifetime for a life sentence. Okay, so that's yours. Now I want you to write down right now where you are. This is October 26, 2015. What it really irritates you now, and there's a huge bonus for telling the truth here. Okay, just tell the truth about what irritates you. Okay, if you don't tell your brain what irritates you, your brain can't take action. Your brain can't see any solution to it. So just write it down. The moment you write it down, your brain starts finding the solution. Could be big or small. A lot of people won't write what irritates them because they think there isn't a solution, but the truth is there is no solution until you write it down. Yeah, so, our brain just wants to know what to work on, and you're the only one that can tell it. Okay, so that's it. Okay, now I'm going to move on to okay, and for me, okay is I like intro sales presentations. We started off where I had to travel all over the world actually to do sales presentations. Now they're closer to home, and they don't irritate me, they don't excite me, but they're great. I mean, they're great for cash flow, and I'm still in a position where that's important for my company, so I do it, but it's not, I'd like to see a future where I don't have to do this anymore. And that's usually what okay things are for you. It's, you'll do it right now. Another one is coaching the basic concepts. So we've been coaching for 41 years, and I personally coach 6,000 people. And there's basic concepts related to time and money and relationship and purpose. And I don't mind coaching those. I mean, I'm more excited about the new stuff that's being created, but I'll do it. And then the third one is there's new knowledge products that I'm creating, and there's parts of the process that's okay for me. Lots of parts of the process are fascinating and motivating, but there's still some things that are okay. So this is a good area. This is a tremendous area. And what we want to do as part of the logic of what I'm showing you, this ABC model, is you want to always, every 90 days, be eliminating your current irritating, and then you want to systematize and automate the B's, the OK part. So that's kind of a progression. Eliminate the A's, systematize and automate the B's. The Four Seasons Hotel has a great line, which is systematize the predictable and humanize the exceptional. Okay, so the more you can systematize the predictable part of your business, it frees you up to humanize, which means creativity and all sorts of new kinds of innovation, and it's really great. And then the third one, C, is what I love. I've come up with this fabulous new idea. I'm so excited. And it's been about the last 6 months where I've discovered how you can score mindsets. And basically what I'm really discovering is that the whole world actually runs by mindsets. It doesn't run by products or services. It actually runs by people wanting to graduate in their lives to a particular type of mindset. And I figured out how to create the mindsets, but not only that, I can teach anyone else how to create a mindset, a scorecard for mindsets that are important to you. So I'm very, very excited about this. Next thing is we have a part of the program which is called the 10 Times Ambition program, and I really love it because I'm about 90 days ahead of my clients, and I have to constantly come up with new stuff, and I'm very excited about that. And my final one is I've got a whole group, a growing number of my 10 times clients. You know, a lot of them are in the room right here. You know, Joe, very much so. I've got Dean Graziosi here. I've got Stefan Wissenbach. I've got lots and lots of people here, and they're really changing games for other people. So I really, really love Robin. Robin's over here. Robin's a game changer. So I really, really, really love working with people who are game changers. And my definition of a game changer is that where all of your competitors actually become your customers and promoters. When you have changed the game of the entire industry, then your competitors actually become your biggest customers and your biggest promoters. And you can tell, that's one of the telltale signs. How many of you would really like to do that? You would actually, yeah, that's a huge thing. I really don't like competition. You know, I like everybody else to be competing, but I just really don't like doing it. I'm the fifth child of two fifth children, and I wasn't born with a competitive chip. So I was just born with a sneaky chip. Sneaky chip. I know how to bypass trouble, okay? And I never thought competing was really a good use of time, okay? So the big thing here now, how many of you this is clarifying? You know, it's kind of clarifying where you are. And you do this every 90 days. Like this gives you 90 days of work, and you can make a big shift. How many of you, if you eliminated the A's, automated and systematized the B's, and then focused a lot more time on the C's, this would be a big deal for you. This would be a big shift. Okay, well, how are we going to figure out where we are right now? So what I want you to do, you'll notice the little boxes right under A, B, and C, your activities. What I want you to do is say what percentage out of 100% of your time right now, what percentage are you spending in A, what amount of time are you spending in B, and what amount of time are you spending in C? And these are my real numbers for this quarter, okay? And what I want to tell you is no matter how good you get at getting rid of A's, next quarter there will be a new bunch of A's that irritate you. Some of the OKs right now will become irritating next quarter, okay? And the reason is because as you get more and more into fascinating and motivating, okay things become irritating. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
So what I want you to do now is, this is where you are right now, and what I want you to do is say what percentage of your time, next time, in 90 days do you want to be spending on A? And for me, it's 0. Okay, those activities. What percentage of those activities do I want to be spending? And I want to drop it down to 10. So I've gotten rid of 10. I've gotten rid of 10% there. And so next time I want to be spending 90% of my time on this. Okay, really good. How many of you so you can see the shift? That's a big shift. 20% of your time being shifted to fascinating and motivating. That's a big deal. How many of you can get excited right now by the prospect of doing that? Yeah, that's really super. Now, I'm just going to have you come down below this, and I want you to say how you're actually going to do this. Okay, so one of our things is that the scorecard concept that we have, we've really developed it very well at the 10 times ambition level, and now over the next quarter, I want to go throughout the program. Everybody on a scorecard. Impact filter only rules. Okay, so sometimes I let people meet with me without an impact filter, and I'm getting mad as hell, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And so the next quarter, no impact filter, no meeting. And the next one is just to reinforce my 3 things a day. Okay, 3 important things. And if you restrict the number of things that you do in a day to a fixed number, like 3, you only have one way of improving, and that is since you can't increase the quantity of things that you're doing, you have to increase the quality. Okay, so I'm an enemy of busyness on the planet. I'm a huge enemy of busyness. I think busyness interferes with people's growth of ambition, and I think busyness interferes with people's sense of courage. Okay? You can fool yourself by being busy that you're actually making progress, but it's a bit of a treadmill. Okay? And then I'm just going to put these in. More of this is my information, but I want you to say the 3 things that you're going to do to automate and systematize B, and then with the 90% that I have here, and you have another percentage, what I want you to do is to actually say what you're going to really focus on and what these activities are. So we've identified 9 possible areas for growth, and we've identified 9 activities that would lead to growth, and this is really super. We're really moving very, very nicely here. Okay, so this is cool. And now, if you could only do one thing over the next quarter, if you could only do one thing, I'll let you. I know some of you are writing furiously. Okay. 60% of my client base historically have been ADD. And so I've found that with ADD people, you got to do it really fast and you got to get them to write in small boxes. That you can keep them almost forever and have them only write about themselves. I find the greatest way to engage another human being is have the entire conversation be only about them. How many of you are quite engaged when it's about you? Yeah. That comes from being a 5th child. I have a rule. I'm number 21. So when I meet a new person, I automatically assume that they have 20 more important things in their life than meeting me. Okay? And then if they are going to move me up into the top 20, it's because I'm creating a value for them that actually engages them, but it has to be about them. Okay, so that makes life a lot simpler. The worst illusion in life that any of this was created for you. Okay, so what I want you to do now is zero in on the one thing that would actually be a game changer. What would be a game changer here? Okay, and you can only pick one. You'll do more than one, but I want you to have your focus on one. Okay, so for me, it's I have 3 game changers, and I want to get them into a digital platform. So not only do they have a scorecard, but they have a digital platform, and by January 31st, I want 3 of my game changers with a scorecard in a digital platform. Okay, and I'm working with Stefan here, bright guy from England. Not all of them are, you know. They stick out. Yeah. All right, that goes for Americans too. All right, so how many of you this is revealing? So this is kind of like a really, really fast way of taking a look at your quarter. Now here's a real tip for you. How many of you have teams? Okay, go back, there's an extra blank one of these in your pack. Go back and do this with your team and allow your team the movement now to get rid of the irritating work. And a lot of the irritating work really is what your company used to do, but it's not really necessary. You know, it's kind of like your wardrobe. 80% of it you haven't worn in a year. Okay, so why do you still have those clothes around? Okay, just get rid of it. And how many of you have people in your life that are like clothes? 80% of them, you feel some sort of obligation, but you actually don't act on it. So we get rid of that. Okay, now we got to do another thing. So we're going to go to the 4 boxes right now. And this is a little thing that I discovered probably over the course of my life. But most people want a change delivered to them so they can always stay in a state of capability and confidence. And that's what perfectionism, by the way. Perfectionism is absolutely the enemy of entrepreneurism, because perfectionism is the demand that you be guaranteed up front with success before you'll actually commit yourself to it. How many of you have done that, where you absolutely demand that success be guaranteed to you before you'll actually commit to the project? Okay, and the world doesn't work that way. It needs you to actually commit before the success can actually be created. And what that requires is courage. Okay, so commitment requires courage. So I want you to take the game changer breakthrough from the previous one, and I want you just to write from the bottom of the ABC page, write what you have in the bottom box and put that at the top. Okay, and so we have the create one-on-one game changer coaching process by December 31st. Okay, so we'll have that in place. And then this is really part of getting them digital. Okay, and then my commitment. Now, a commitment is the statement to yourself that I am going to commit to this even though I don't have the guarantee of success. And that's what entrepreneurism is, that you commit yourself before you have a guarantee of success, okay? And I've coached entrepreneurs all over the world, from 60, 70 different industries. And one of the things I notice is when entrepreneurs start to die is when they start thinking of having a courage-free future. When you start thinking you're going to have a courage-free, the universe notices. It's a bit like the Terminator, the light's going out like this, and the universe starts wanting the parts back. When you tell the universe, I want a courage-free life, the universe wants the parts back. Okay, and you start dying, okay, in life. So with mine, by the end of 2015, I used all my experience from individual game-changing coaching sessions over the past 2.5 years to create a unique process that standardizes everything I know will be working for all existing and new game changer sessions in 2016. Okay, so game changer is the scary part of my life right now. Okay, and I'm really, I just have to create it out of courage right now. The moment you start creating stuff, and each of you can analyze the 5 biggest breakthroughs in your life with this card. Okay? Every time you took a big breakthrough in your life is because you committed before there was a guarantee of success, which required courage. The difference between courage and confidence is that confidence feels really good. Courage doesn't. How many of you, when you're feeling really shaky and you're feeling really, really scared, and you're saying, oh, this is really terrible, actually it's courage. It's actually courage. And that's why a lot of people don't like courage, because it feels lousy. Okay? But the more you commit 100%, the shorter the courage that's required. And that's really interesting. So I'm into short courage. I've tested long courage, and I like short courage. I like courage that's maybe 24-hour courage, okay? 15 minutes is even better. 15 minutes is better, you know. And then there's some people, crazy people like Peter Diamandis, who has a lifetime of courage. Lifetime of courage. Yeah, I'm not that advanced yet. Okay, then the courage is that I hate going back. First of all, I have to go back and do an activity that I actually hate. And I have to collect all my notes over the last 2.5 years, and I got to organize them because I'm the only one who knows where they are, and I'm the only one who knows how they actually connect with each other. So part of courage is for a while doing a particular type activity that moves you to the next level, but you're going to have to put in the time to actually do that. How many of you have something right now that it requires a very unpleasant activity on your part for a period of time, but if once you get it finished, then you never have to do that again in your life, and it puts you in a position where you can take a jump? Yeah. And so everybody thinks about courage, you know, like in a very heroic, medal-winning terms, but a lot of courage is just what it is in your life right today that is required to go through to get to the next level. There's 7.3 billion people on the planet right now, and each of them got up during this 24-hour period, and they're facing something that represents the next jump for them, okay? So one of my goals, I'll talk to you a little bit later, is that this is an exercise that's going to be online. It'll be an online app by the end of this month, probably by November 1st, and it's for phones, it's for pads, and it's for computers, where you can just download this and use it. But what I'd like you to do is to distribute it to everybody in your network, because I have a goal, and this is my influence from Peter Diamandis, that by 2039, we have 1 billion people on the planet using this exercise to basically grow on a daily basis. It'll be 1 out of 9 people, and if you have one out of 9 people actually going through courage on a day, it makes everything better. Just makes it. What they're doing, I have no idea, nor do I care. I just want them moving forward on the thing that gives them courage. That's all I want to do. Okay? And then, once we get this, you get a capability out of it. So it's the commitment and the courage that actually creates capability. Okay? So it's a bit like the commercials, you know, apply, lather, rinse, reapply. And this is the same thing here. Okay? So the same thing is you have to, commitment creates courage, courage creates capability, capability creates confidence. So the next one is confidence, okay? And see, this is what people really, really want, but they want confidence given to them. Nobody can give you confidence. You have to create confidence by going through commitment, courage, and developing a new capability, and it's the 3 of those. And once you get the higher level of confidence, then you can commit at a higher level, okay? And as long as you keep doing this for the rest of your life, you'll always be young. No matter what age you are, you'll always be young. People get old when they try to have capability and confidence without commitment and courage, okay? So that's just how the world works and what it means to be truly human. Okay, so that's it. So this is what your next 90 days is about. How many of you, if you did this during the next 90 days, that would be a real breakthrough? Yeah. Yeah, and I've got a lot of people here. You know, we have 300 in the room, and each of you is working on something else, and it's you working on something else that makes the world go round, okay? Because you influence a lot of other people while you're doing it, okay? It's not big stuff. It's the thing that you have to deal with right now. Okay, now I'm going to take you to the next one. And this is an upward arrow, and this is really important. So I did the 90 days. You've just done the ABC to set this up, and then you did the 4 C's. And now I'm going to show you that if you do the ABC and you do the 4 C's every day, or at the beginning of every 90 days, that just locks you in just for the next 90 days. So in my program as Strategic Coach, the time period I get everybody to think about is 25 years, okay? So for me, I started a new 25-year period last year, 2014, and I'm going to 2039. But for you today, what you're doing 25 years from 2015 to 2040, okay? So last year I was 70, so my next growth period, and this will be my biggest growth period, is from age 70 to age 95. So when I'm 95, I'm more energized, I'm a lot smarter, I'm a lot more ambitious than I am right now, okay? And the reason I want to do that is because I want to do it. People say, well, why do you need to do that? I say, I do not need to do that. I want to do it. Okay, most of you in this room are beyond the borderline of need. You're into the world now of want. Okay, and want doesn't have anything to do with other people thinking about what you should do. Want is simply, this is what I want to do, and the reason why you want to do it is because you want to do it. How many of you that's actually relieving? There's no justification in the world of wanting. In the world of needing, there's total justification because you're expecting other people to do it. In the world of wanting, strictly your game. So you got the 90 days, and then you do 100 quarters like this. So you do the ABC, so this quarter, which goes right up until the beginning of 2016, you do that, okay, and then you jump to a higher level, and then the beginning of the next 90 days, you do that, and you do this for 100 quarters in a row. How many of you think it would really take you somewhere? Yeah, and remember, each one of those 90 days is just 1% of 25 years. So if you blow one, it doesn't really matter. So what I do is every quarter I do 5 things. This is my number one thing, but I actually do 5 things, 5 multiplier projects, and it's like compound interest. See, people really grasp compound interest when it comes to money, but they don't actually understand compound interest when it comes to capability. So every 90 days, I want to ratchet up my level, first of all, of operating in the area of fascinating and motivating, and I want to ratchet up being in a continual cycle of commitment, courage, capability, and confidence, and do that every quarter. And it's like investing now in something that's going to keep paying over. One of the big problems of living in the microchip age is people's reduced time frames. And if you reduce your time frames, time speeds up. If you lengthen your time frame, everything slows down, okay? Okay, so this is October 26, 2015. I'd like to take you back to October 26th, 1990. And what I'd like you to do is tell me the 3 things that were really ticking you off that day. Nobody remembers. How many of you, though, can remember what generally you were really excited about in 1990? How many of you can get a handle on that? So here's a tip. Our brain only remembers excitement. It doesn't remember getting ticked off. That being the case about the future, don't try to remember getting ticked off in the future. Just remember, see, the only memory-worthy things that are fascinating and motivating, nothing else is worth reminding. Doesn't last more than a couple of days.
I want to talk about the 6 Ds of exponential technology, the 6 Ds exponential framework. So any technology that becomes digitized becomes an information technology. What does that mean? Biology has become an information technology. Biology has become digitized. We now sequence your human genome and you get information on a digital stream, right? You can go to a number of companies and find out what your genetic normalities or abnormalities would be. But what becomes digitized enters a period of exponential growth. And the early parts of exponential growth are deceptive. It's deceptive. People don't notice that a technology is in exponential growth. I'll explain this in more detail. It then becomes disruptive all of a sudden when they do notice. Third D is disruptive. It then causes dematerialization. I'll explain what that means. Demonetization, and eventually democratization. So these are the 6 Ds, and I'll come back to these one at a time and explain what that means. So let's go into deceptive and disruptive. So exponential growth is a simple doubling, right? 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, 16, 32. And to give you a visual picture of this, I want you to imagine I have a test tube with a colony of algae in it. They're doubling every minute. And in the beginning of this story, it's 11:54 a.m., and this test tube has got 1.5% full with algae. Small amount of algae. They barely bump into each other. They don't know each other. They haven't gone around and met each other yet, but they're doubling. They meet other algae, and they have a party, and they double. A minute later, it's 11:55. We have 3% full. A minute later, it's 6% full. They still haven't noticed that they're in exponential growth. After all, it's just 6% full. A minute later, it's 12% full, 25% full. Now we're starting to meet people more regularly. It's 50% full, 11:59. At noon, they're panicking. It's 100% full. They're out of resources. It's only 5 minutes later. Thankfully, one of these pioneering algae said, "Oh my God, look, out there in the universe, I saw 3 other test tubes totally empty." And they go, "We're saved. We're saved." And so the algae organize, and they say, "Okay, 25% of you go to that test tube, 25% go to this test tube, and 25% here. Stay here." But what they don't realize is that they're in exponential growth. And that savior really doesn't mean much, because a minute later, they're 50%, and 2 minutes later, they're dead. So the early stages of exponential growth are very deceptive. We don't notice it. Kodak didn't notice the digital camera increasing in megapixels, becoming easier, other technologies organizing around it like digital printers and higher memory density. And then by the time that Kodak noticed the digital camera was becoming the new standard, it was too late. So my question is, are you noticing other technologies out there that are in exponential growth that you can be hopping on early? The next D of exponentials is dematerialization. What do I mean by dematerialization? There are lots of things we used to own that we don't own as things anymore. We own them as apps. My favorite image. 20 years later, all of these things fit in your pocket and come free on your smartphone. Right? I don't have a GPS anymore on my car shelf. It's a GPS on my Android phone. I don't have libraries of books or music. It's on my phone. I don't have an HD video camera or an HD still camera. It's on my phone. All these physical things are dematerializing as they become digitized. So if you're in the thing business, you have to be wondering which of your things that you sell could be dematerialized. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you may be looking at, how do I dematerialize that thing? So Airbnb is dematerializing hotels. Right? If you wanted to be in the hotel business before, what would you have to do? You'd have to buy real estate. You'd have to get a hotel designer. You'd have to invest tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And I guarantee you the hotel industry never thought that 2 guys in a garage could give them competition. But they are, aren't they? You've got companies dematerializing rental car industries. So when you start thinking about industries, what industries could you dematerialize? Not just physical things, but industries. So I'm studying this process, interviewing the companies and the people who've dematerialized, and what did they think? How did they do it? Where are they going? Make sense? You with me still? Next one is demonetization. What do you mean by demonetization? Well, Craigslist demonetized the classifieds. It took the money out of the newspapers and put it into the consumers' pockets. Skype demonetized long distance, iTunes the record store, Google research libraries, eBay the local store, Amazon bookstores. It demonetized. So a lot of industries are becoming demonetized, and it's scaring the shit out of a lot of companies. And so, is your business going to become demonetized? Where it literally becomes freeware? And then how does it change your business model? Or how can you demonetize an industry and take a small amount of that business, give 99% back to the consumer, and take the 1%? And when these things become dematerialized and demonetized, they're literally freeware on the internet, they become democratized. They go everywhere, right? The Maasai warrior in the middle of Africa on a smartphone has got democratization of an HD video camera, still camera, radios, books, all these things free on their smartphone, and this stuff has become democratized around the world. So those 6 Ds make sense? Powerful forces over these right now, these next 2, 5, 10 years are going to change the face of every industry because we're in rapid exponential growth for a whole series of technologies. And let me just talk about this. So I've been researching and spending time with the CEOs at the top in these exponential technologies. I can't talk about many of them given the time. I'm going to just pick 2, robotics and 3D printing. And I'm not going to teach these. I'm just going to give you an overview of what's going on. But you need to understand where these technologies are going and how do you use them. So robotics. This is a friend, Scott Hassan, who was one of the earliest Google shareholders and has been building a series of robots. This is the PR2. And the PR2 is a precursor to the robots that will be in your homes. What happens when labor forces change? So which businesses are labor intensive today that are going to transform when labor becomes effectively free? Because these robots are going to enter every aspect of our lives. This is cruelty to robots. But I have an emotional reaction when I see this. I don't know if you do as well. But robots are going to enter every aspect of our world because they don't have fights on Friday night, they don't come in late, they don't have sick, they don't have unions. They're going to transform every business. This is another robot. This is the Google autonomous car. Those of you who join me on the next adventure trip that we're doing, we're going to be focusing on robotics and 3D printing and going and riding in this Google autonomous car up in San Jose. This is what the car is doing. It's a robot. It's fully autonomous. This is it driving down University Boulevard. It's driven now over 500,000 miles. It's been in 2 accidents only, twice when it's been driven by humans. Guarantee you. Now legal in a number of states. You see that thing on the roof that's spinning around? That thing on the roof that's spinning around that's in the image over here is called a LiDAR. It's a laser imaging radar. It's got 64 lasers at 10 RPM. It's generating 750 megabytes of data per second. So you can see what the computer is seeing. Right? It's seeing everything. 750 megabytes of data per second. It's seeing a person open a door. It's seeing a butterfly come along. It's seeing a person drop a piece of trash. It's seeing some guy being pickpocketed. It's seeing everything. Now, I want you to imagine tens of millions of these cars on the road in the future. What kind of business opportunities is that going to create? Because you're now going to be able to have a record backwards in time of every single thing that occurred in the open public. Right? Do you get what the power of that is in terms of information and information mining? But it doesn't stop there. That's just one example. Because in the future, you're going to be able to know anything you want, anytime you want. So Eric and I are in the space business. This is an example. There are a number of low Earth orbit constellations that are being launched in the next year. And so there will be a number of these commercial constellations giving imaging at half a meter resolution. And you'll be able to look in any parking lot anywhere in the world and find out exactly at that moment how many cars are in that parking lot of your competition. Or how many trucks are carrying supplies down from one mining location down to another. What do you want to know about your competition? You can know it. Powerful thinking, right? Now it's a matter of thinking, what information do I want to know? Because it doesn't stop there. There's going to be an army of AI drones giving you literally centimeter resolution, flying over every city and every parking lot. You guys played with this stuff yet? Amazing. And so these drones, forget about this, the satellite constellations, those are going to be displaced by these drone populations flying at 10,000 feet or 1,000 feet over your home, whatever the case might be, taking lots of these imaging. And that isn't even anything yet, because now, think about this. As you've got millions of people walking around Google Glass on record taking information, you're going to have knowledge of everything going on everywhere. How does that change your business models? What kind of business opportunities does that create? What kind of, I mean, I'm talking about $250,000. We're talking about $250 billion. We're talking multi-billion-dollar opportunities. If you could figure out what information, this stuff is coming down the pike. It is happening. It's not a matter of if, it's when. So how are you going to use this and take advantage of this stuff? Other technology to mention, 3D printing. And again, I'm just giving you a quick overview. I'm not teaching this stuff. My intention is to teach this and the implications and how you use it and where it's going and what it can go and do for you. But I want to give you an overview of this technology. 3D printing is the Star Trek replicator. It's the closest thing. I've just joined the board, my first public board, a company called 3D Systems. They're a $5 billion 3D printing company, the best in the world. I want to learn about this, so I'm doing a deep dive in this industry. The manufacturing industry around the world is $10 trillion. $10 trillion. And it's about to become disrupted. There's $10 trillion of opportunity, boom, on the table by 3D printing. So 3D printing is the ability to print things at a layer at a time, where you take any object you want digitally, and again, everything's becoming digitized, and you can print it out. So this is a polygon within a polygon within a polygon that's been 3D printed. This are high-temperature titanium turbine blades that were 3D printed. GE is now 3D printing their injectors for their jet engines because they can't actually physically manufacture it in the old manufacturing process. You see, 3D printing is additive manufacturing. It used to be that it was subtractive. You take a block of aluminum and you cut away everything you didn't want. What was left was the piece. Now, you do just the opposite. You just add atoms where you want them effectively and 3D print the structure. And it turns out there are many things you couldn't subtractively manufacture that you can additively manufacture. This is a future of 3D printing homes. Here's 1,000 home designs you want. Which one you want? Print. Boom, and you print a 3D home. This is a person who lost his right lower limb, scanned his left limb, flipped the image, and 3D printed a composite prosthetic. This is a full-scale 3D printed motorcycle in the lobby of Autodesk. And one of the industries that's becoming just fun because it's a mom-and-pop industry is the whole jewelry industry. Right? This is the gear ring that you print. And what's interesting is when it's printed, it works the first time. All the parts, it's manufactured as a workable 3D moving geared ring in one shot. Perfect to your size, whatever engraved on it you want. So let me show you a few other things. We're now beginning to 3D print foods. This is a joint venture with Hershey's and 3D Systems. Imagine, if you would, being able to 3D print your foods at home, but what you're adding and 3D printing into the foods is exactly the proteins and vitamins and things that you want. So your foods are being manufactured in your home for you. You know, I need some more calcium in my diet. Great, I'm going to up that into 3D printing. I love these examples. For the women in the room, imagine being able to 3D print your shoes. You don't like the shoes you want. You recycle them and you 3D print a new design. Or you're going out at night and you 3D print a dress that evening. This is on the right. This is an entrepreneur, Allison Taylor, who knew nothing about 3D printing and wanted to go after the doll industry. And she started, I'm going to teach how did she do this. How do you start an industry or a business in the 3D printing world? So she learned online, and I'm going to show you how you do that. And she created a company that's 3D printing custom-made dolls. It's a $3.5 billion marketplace that she's going after to disrupt. And right now, everything's made in China and is mass manufactured. This is about customized production. You can go large scale. This is a company called Invisalign that is manufacturing 17 million unique items per year. Every single Invisaligner, it's replacing the metal braces. 65,000 items per day. So you can mass produce. This is built with 54 3D printers. They're doing 17 million items in a San Francisco warehouse that's dark. It's running robotically 7x24. So I give keynotes to manufacturing companies that are old-style manufacturing companies. They are deers in the headlights of this technology. Again, $10 trillion up for grabs in 3D printing. Make sense? I just want to show you a little bit of what's coming down the pike. Because what 3D printing is going to allow is every one of us to become designers and manufacturers. I need a device that can do this. And you're talking to your AI and say, can you make it a little bit rounder and stretch it out here? And, oh yeah, that's perfect. Print. That's what it's going to be like. And then you're going to upload your design to the cloud and say, charge 50 cents for it. Anybody else wants to print it. Your kids are not going to be patient enough to buy on Amazon and wait 24 hours for a delivery. They're going to hit print on that Lego set and have it manufactured in their closet. This is where we're going. It's going to disrupt multi-$100 billion transportation industries. You're not going to have warehouses full of stuff. You're going to have it on the cloud. Do you guys get the impact of where this is going? And then finally, 3D printing of biologics. We're now, this is Tony Atala, who's now working on 3D printing of organs. I won't go into detail, but the work is going on right now. So that's just a small piece about some of the exponential technologies. Again, AI, synthetic biology. I haven't touched any of these things. Let me give you a little bit of overview of the other side that I've been researching and working, and I want to teach you guys about how to use, which I call exponential organizational tools. Exponential organizational tools. Incentive competitions, data mining, gamification, crowdfunding, DIY communities, on-demand workforce, crowd ideation. So my friend Bill Joy has a famous quote. He says, no matter who you are, most of the smartest people work for someone else. Even if you're Larry Page at Google with 40,000 employees, that's 40,000 out of 7 billion. So the question is, how do you get those 7 billion or some subset of those people to do stuff for you, for free, for fun? And so what I've been researching is the areas of what I call exponential organizational tools, and one of them is gamification. How do you take your problem that you have and gamify it? It's like, oh my God, I've got this crazy problem. I don't know how to solve it. Well, how do you get other people to solve it for you? Either for a fixed price or for free, because you make it fun and you gamify it. There are amazing companies which I've spent time with and extract information like Badgeville. And if you guys get my blogs, a lot of the research and information are on my blogs at diamandis.com. But let me show you two examples of gamification. This is a gamification of how do you get my park cleaned up. How do you make it fun for people to clean up your park? Even works for deaf people. In one day, 72 kilograms was cleaned up. 41 kilograms more than normal.
Oh, no.
Here's another one. How do you get people to exercise? All right, you get the idea. A friend of mine, an SU graduate, was trying to deal with malaria. And by the way, there's a potentially new vaccine that's come out for malaria, which would be life-changing in the world. But malarial detection is expensive. And so what he did was the way that you detect malaria today is that you actually have a person who has a microscope and actually looks at a slide and is looking for the malaria parasite in the blood, and he has to, basically do a count. And it's time intensive and it costs a large amount of money. So what this person said is, we're going to take blood samples, image them, put the images up on the web, and teach the public how to find the parasite by making it a first shooter game. We gamified it. So malariaspot.org is a first shooter game for looking for the malaria parasite in blood images. And it was amazing. Just come to the stats here. It was launched in April 2012. In 30 days, it had 8,000 players in 95 countries. If you combine 22 games from non-expert players, they achieved an accuracy of 99%. And if they gave those people 1 minute of training and combined 13 games, you had 99%. So again, how do you take your problem and make it fun for people to solve? It's gamification. On-demand workforce. So I talk about this to people running $10 billion companies. They have 100,000 people in their workforce. And I'm saying, yet 100,000 people in your workforce is a lead keel for you. How do you instead of employing a large number of people, employ people on demand when you need them? So think about it. Can you get the people to do the work for you as a large-scale labor force where you pay them only when they do the work? So there are companies like Crowdflower, like Freelancer, like a number of them. Crowdflower is one. It's one of the largest. It's got millions of people around the world that you can get where you say, I'll give you 5 cents to do this piece of work. So here's an example. This is Sarah Fortune at Harvard Med School, who I know who does work in tuberculosis. And she was working on TB survivor cells. And she had to have hundreds of thousands of images looked at. Now forget about its TB cells. Maybe it's images of pretty women. Maybe it's images of homes on the internet. Maybe it's images of whatever you need. To get her work done, she had 2 options. She either hired 100 graduate students for a year to look at these images, she created an AI to look at the images for her, or she went out to the crowd. And so what she did is she went out to the crowd, to 3 million people on Crowdflower, and she offered 5 cents per image analysis, whatever the case might do, and she got it done in a week. We're all in the marketing world. Here is a company called Freelancer. I want to show you an example of what they did. Freelancer is 6.7 million. How many folks know Freelancer as a company? How many folks have used it? Okay, small number. I have for a lot of my work. 6.7 million people in 234 countries, $200 million of projects online, 600 categories of work. You can get a freelancer in synthetic biology if you want to start a synthetic biology company, in astronomy, in quantum physics, in anything. 600 different categories of experts who are available per hour or per finished project. And so what Freelancer did was, and the average, it's a $200 paid gig. These people are super smart PhDs in Pakistan you can hire. So they said, what can we get for $25,000? And they put up a challenge that said, for $25,000, expose our Freelancer logo in your local community. They had 441 entries. The winning team got 3,000 villagers in Bangladesh to put on 3,000 T-shirts, 3,000 bandanas, and 3,000 flags and march into a stadium. And they won 10,000 of the 25,000. Let me show you a video of what that looked like.
You ready? You ready to win $25,000? Well, listen up, because the Freelancer.com Expose Our Logo contest is back.
So these are all different teams around the world and what they were doing to try and compete. And they only got paid at the end of this. So people were skydiving for this competition. Nobody was guaranteed a penny. Here's in Bangladesh, the 3,000 villagers. This was a rap music star, created a rap song for him. I love this. A motorcycle gang entered the competition. So another area is crowd creation. So how many of you have used 99 Designs? A great number, great. So you know this, you can go, and I've used it all the time for logo. It used to be I would hire a production company and they'd charge me, thousands of dollars, and I get one final product. With 99 Designs, it's extraordinary. And you guys should, if you haven't used it, you should.
Website, t-shirt, or print design? Go to 99 Designs, the #1 marketplace for crowdsourced graphic design. 99 Designs helps you host a design contest where a crowd of graphic designers compete to give you the design you love or your money back. In just 7 days, you'll have dozens of custom designs to choose from at a fraction of the price. Logos start at just $2.99. Start your next graphic design project. Go to 99designs.com.
But what you might not know about is a company called Tongle that is a version of that for creating television commercials. Anybody here use Tongle at all? So I've used Tongle. Brendan, did you enjoy it? So what Tongle realized is that the old Madison Avenue way of creating TV commercials looked like this. It would cost you between $250,000 to $1 million to get a TV commercial made. It cost about 6 to 12 months of your time. You get one finished product. And distribution of that product, well, that's extra. What Tongle has done is it said, there are 40,000 people in Los Angeles with a 1080p HD camera and a Mac who want to be known, and they will fight tooth and nail to create a TV commercial for you. 40,000 garage studios. So they put up $10,000 to $100,000 competitions. And in those competitions, you actually get ideas and final products. So here's an example. SureTech, that makes duct tape, wanted to refresh their brand. And so what they did was they created a competition for $10,000. They put out to the community of players, and they said, give us ideas for a TV commercial for duct tape. They got 500 ideas back, and by the way, the idea has to be in a 140-character tweet. They narrowed those 500 ideas down to 5 ideas. They said, okay, these are the 5 ideas we like. They put those 5 ideas back out to those garage studios, and they said, make TV commercials around these 5 ideas. They haven't paid anything yet, right? They haven't paid $1 yet. Those garage studios created 60 final videos for them to choose from. Let me show you what the winning video looked like. And by the way, the timeline was in weeks. Remember Tron?
Jay, I told you to clean the garage, not play with duct tape.
Ah! Yes!
There's no way she's his girlfriend. But this video, on top of being produced for that fixed price, then goes viral and has 2.5 million views. This past year, Tongle made its first Super Bowl commercial. So if creating television commercials has been out of reach, here's a way to get the crowd to do it and compete their butts off to do it for you. So what are the best ways to do that? What are the platforms you can use? This is the work that I'm learning to teach and share with you guys. Data mining. You may have heard about this. I want to share it with you because it's one of the most powerful things in the world. You guys have I think the technical term is a shitload of data. And in that data, there's literally gold. How do you extract that information? And by the way, if you don't have data, you can actually go to the crowd, to Crowdflower or Freelancer, and have the crowd create the data sets for you. Like, I'll pay a penny for any piece of data on this subject. But once you have that data, the question is, can you extract value from that data? So I want to give you two quick examples. This is a good friend of mine up in Toronto. I just introduced to Dan, Rob McEwen. Rob is the chairman of Goldcorp. You may have heard this story from me before, but it's important you hear it again. What Rob did was basically had a gold mine, and he had no idea how much gold was in his mine. He spent 9 years collecting geological data from his mine. And when he went to his geologist and asked, where can I find this next 6 million ounces of gold, his geologist, the best he could employ, had no idea. So what he did is he created a competition, and he took all of his geological data, think of it as marketing data for you, think of it as customer data for you, think of it as whatever data that you have in your files, and he put it up on the web. And he said, I'm going to give up a $500,000 prize for the person who can show me where the 6 million ounces of gold are in this mine. He had 1,400 data requests, 125 entries in the competition. 3 winners showed him where to find 6 million ounces of gold. None of these came to his mine. One was in Russia, 2 were in New Zealand. What they did was look at his data in a different way. And he only paid the winners. And ultimately, about $1 million of total investment on his part generated $3 billion in value creation. Here's another example. And what I'll do is, if you follow my work, introduce you to a company called Kaggle. That's one of the best data mining companies, turnkey the process. How do you use Kaggle? How can you extract the data? What Kaggle did was they did a demonstration with Allstate. Allstate Insurance, $32 billion company. What are they in the business of doing? They're in the business of saying, if you're a woman, age 25, living in this city, unmarried, your probability of having an accident is X%. That's the business they're in, because they then set your rate based upon your probability of having an accident. And so they employ 40 statisticians, the best in the world. But they decided to do an experiment. They said, okay, we're going to see if the data mining experts out there in the world can do a better algorithm to tell us if we have this kind of data, what the result is. So they put up a $10,000 competition. 107 teams entered this. 10 weeks later, they put up a training set. They said, here's a bunch of people, here's their accident rates. Here's a bunch of people, you tell me what their accident rates are, and the test set. In the course of 10 weeks, they improved Allstate's internal process and algorithm 340% for 10K. That's worth billions of dollars to them. So what data do you have that the crowd could give you an algorithm on to tell you predictively which customers will buy, or whatever the case might be? What is that worth to you if you could create that kind of competition and have these data analysts who, by the way, during the day work at Google or at JPL, at night they do this because they want to prove they're the best in the world. I'll end here on crowdfunding. No bucks, no Buck Rogers, one of the most powerful things out there that you should be doing right now. I don't know, is Slava here? Not yet, but you'll meet. So there are 530 crowdfunding platforms out there. Indiegogo is one of the biggest. You'll meet Slava. You've got Rocket Hub, you've got Kickstarter. They generated $2.8 billion of revenue last year. They're slated to create $15 billion of cash available by 2015. Every company should be doing a crowdfunding, because by doing a crowdfunding project, you are not only getting revenue in, you're testing interest in your products. And you're creating a passionate community of people who are following your work. So I interviewed the top people. Eric Michigovsky is a guy, I won't go into the story in detail, because I've got a minute left. Eric is a guy who basically was running out of money, decided to create a competition out there to fund his Pebble watch. He had 6 weeks of cash left in the bank. Put up this competition and raised $10 million. He needed $200,000 was what he was looking for. Just a few months ago, Eric Anderson and I and the team at Planetary Resources, I think Mike Klein is here in the room, who is working with us as well. We ended up doing a crowdfunding campaign for a public use space telescope, used all of the techniques I've been learning here, and we went out and beat our goal by 50%. Our goal was $1 million, raised $1.5 million. So let me pause there a second and say, what I've given you just a small smattering, and I'm sorry this is on overload. My goal here is simply to give you an overview. All of these powerful technologies are coming down the pipe.
How would you describe the successful entrepreneur? What are the characteristics of these people that truly make it? They make money, they make impact, they do it with integrity, versus the ones that just flounder and kind of have jobs but call themselves business owners or entrepreneurs? I mean, what's the key difference between, I mean, there's a lot of differences, I know, and you've done this for many years, but like what are some of the things that you see as just what makes a great entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, you know, you've got the kind of standard stuff everybody talks about, which is you've got this huge vision, you know, you're able to think 10x over everybody else. You've got this tremendous ability to be both disciplined and focused. And I don't think a lot of people think of entrepreneurs as being disciplined, but those that knock it out of the park have a lot of both of those kind of things. But what was interesting is this executive program I founded and ran for 15 years. I just made it a game to see if I could predict who coming out of that course would build the biggest, fastest companies. And I could. And it came down to something very simple. And that was those who were the hungriest to learn, that had this really thirst for learning. And it's the thing we were talking about, where Mark Cuban in his book, and I'd known Mark for 30 years, but I didn't realize he's had this fundamental routine, this habit, this daily focus of reading 3 hours every day, and he talks about it in his book. Warren Buffett, 500 pages a day. Bill Gates, who we talked about in The Greatest Business Decision, his famous Think Weeks, where, you know, his record, 112 books, manuscripts, PhD thesis, white papers. Mark Zuckerberg, this year in 2015's focused to read a book every 2 weeks. Eric Schmidt saying on the stage there at the Milken conference, you know, what was key to him really helping scale up Google. We think he's going to say some really big fancy stuff. He said, no, shut my BlackBerry off every weekend and read a book or two. Right. And so it's this, you can't have anything come out of your brain that you don't get in first. And it's this intense ability to learn and then act on it, bias for action.
Well, so the key there, acting on it, because there's a lot of people that will go to seminars, they'll read a lot of stuff, they'll consume things, but they spend a lot of their time consuming and reading and less doing. So what is the action element? I mean, there are these unicorns that you can, some of the people you mentioned, people could be thinking, well, I can never do what Warren Buffett does or Zuckerberg. I mean, I'm just a, whatever, I'm a normal person. How do I apply that? Should I really read that much? I mean, what would be your response to that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to come back to this bias for action. You know, Tom Peters, who is my idol, he wrote the very first really popular business book, In Search of Excellence. And he was kind enough to endorse the first book on the cover. And he said, you know, looking back on the 8 things that he found were key to building these significantly excellent companies, he said the only one of the 8 that still holds, he believes, is this bias for action. And that's what most people miss. They have these dreams, but they don't really have visions. Vision's a dream with a plan that then you act on. And then you have these fundamental routines, like reading, like going over for 3 hours every day like Steve Jobs did when he was launching his retail store. And it's what an Olympic athlete has to do that reaches to the gold level, is committing to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and practicing for 3 hours before they go to school. It's Jordan Spieth, who we've just witnessed have the most amazing year in 2015. That doesn't happen by accident. He had a big, hairy, audacious goal. I want to not only go to the Masters, I want to win the Masters. And then he had this discipline and focus to practice. Did you read some of the stories about where when he'd go over to his family store, he would pick yards between then, and he'd hit the golf balls from yard to yard to yard. I mean, this is crazy, this obsession, but that's what's necessary.
Well, and it is the thing that gives the edge. Well, you said something earlier today when you were talking to the EO group about having the, you know, not reading is no different, something along like having the
those
ability
who can't read, I mean, those who don't read barely have an advantage over those who can't.
Right.
And I think we've lost a lot of that gotta wanna to learn.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you have 4 children?
We do. Yes.
What are you doing as a parent? Do you try to instill entrepreneurial values in them, or do you just kind of let them be their own person, see if they kind of fall into that? Or what are some of, how does this apply to how you're a parent?
Yeah, you know, I've always seen, again, that's why I love being an educator. The word education, educare, means to draw out the genius, you know, your whole thing that's within everyone. And you know what? I'm purposely not focused on them being entrepreneurs. The founding fathers of the U.S. said something interesting. We're soldiers, so our children can be farmers, entrepreneurs, so their children can be poets. And what I'm finding is interesting is all of our children have kind of gravitated towards the creative arts side, which, by the way, is the one thing robots, going to be one of the, kind of the last things that robots are going to take over. Almost every other job, accounting, lawyer, doctor, the kind of things that our generation focused on is being automated.
Right.
So, you know, I think they've got to go with their own trends, and I just want them to have this thirst to learn.
Well, so everyone has in their folder here that tool that says 250K ideas. Now, part of that is a trick in the same way that when I don't emphasize it as much as I used to, but for the first 8 years of Genius Network, I would say if you're here for new people that would join the group, and those of you that have been in the group for a while, you've heard me say this many times, where I would say if you don't get at least a 10 times return on your investment, I don't want you to renew for the next year. And it's not that I don't want the money, because I want the money. I'd like the money. What I want, though, is I want you to get a 10 times return. I want Genius Network to be a school that pays you to attend. I don't ever want it to be a cost. And what I'm doing, though, is I'm doing a trick, because if your brain asks and listens for $250,000 ideas, if you are truly asking and looking for that, your brain cannot avoid the question. And so in a lot of ways, it's a way to, because there's all kinds of stuff you can focus on. But if you focused on what am I going to hear that's worth at least $250,000 to me, you're going to get a 10 times return on that. And the idea for the 10-minute talk was how could someone share a concept, a strategy, a methodology in 10 minutes that if someone actually took seriously what it is, and they have to deliver, not all of them do, but a lot actually do, that each minute of that 10-minute talk would be worth $25,000. If you could literally do a $250,000 idea in 10 minutes, that would be a pretty damn good return on investment. And so we've done, like in the membership site, there's so many 10-minute talks that are worth $250,000, but only to the degree that someone interacts with it that way. So when you're talking about mindset, when you're talking about this, what would prevent someone, even though you're talking about it, even though you're explaining exactly what you did, even though I just shared the whole idea, and a lot of people are very capable of saying, this is what I want, and then they go about doing what is needed in order to get it. what would prevent someone from being able to do that? So, because there will be some people in the audience here that are hearing this, but it just doesn't land. It just doesn't penetrate.
Well, I think there's a decision. So there's a choice, but there's an interesting distinction between the word choice, because choice can only come from the inside. You know, in other words, the choice is that you have a picture of yourself in the future, and you choose that that's who you're going to be in the future. And entrepreneurs, I would say, probably become entrepreneurs because they have that ability to a degree that the general public doesn't, that they can see themselves a year from now or 3 years from now, and they can actually engage intellectually with that totally makes sense, but also they emotionally commit to it. You know, they're committed, but there's no evidence of it yet.
Right.
So literally who you are as an entrepreneur constantly gets created by your vision of who you want to be in the future. But that's the choice, but the decision is that you have to give up criticism, complaining, and blaming for the rest of your life. That once you enter onto this path, you can no longer stand back and say, well, if it works, if it doesn't work, I get to criticize, complain, and blame, because you don't. That's the decision, and that is the real, what I would say, the fork in the road. You know, Yogi Berra said, when you come to the fork in the road, take it.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that I took the one fork a long time ago, and then there's all sorts of mindsets that build up around being a transformer, and also your behavior changes, and then your behavior becomes automatic habit. And then what you notice is you start noticing other people who have the same mindset. And that's where the payoff is, because our brain is not our intelligence. Our ability to access other people's brains is really our intelligence. And the school system, starting at junior kindergarten now, where they have proms at the end of the year, they teach people to be isolated individuals who think their intelligence is inside of themselves. So you get 20 years of that in the educational system, and it disenables you from accessing the intelligence of other people. Entrepreneurs, by necessity and also by choice, really access the intelligence, and that's really your intelligence, the creativity and the contributions of other people. But you don't access other people's capabilities, intelligence, unless you give up criticizing, complaining, and blaming. You can't do it anymore. It's just not part of your life.
Yeah. One of the things you said is you really can't motivate anybody else. It's a lot easier to select enthusiastic people. And once you create a conscious culture, it selects for its own kind, which is interesting. A company has an immune system, and the people that don't fit into the culture, the immune system begins to select them out and get rid of them. So what should entrepreneurs look for and do in order to better select talent instead of trying to motivate people? And what can entrepreneurs do to cultivate and encourage self-selecting cultures?
Well, of course, we can inspire people. So I don't want to say you can't motivate anybody. You can inspire people, but I consider it kind of like a bucket with holes in it. If people are dependent on you to fill them up with energy, and it's all going to leak out, so they eventually have to be able to create their own energy. So again, I kind of talked about it already. You've got to create a culture that really allows human beings to be creative and flourish, where they feel a sense of purpose, where they have a sense of meaning, they have a sense of belonging, that they're cared for, that people they care about, and that they can have some fun in the workplace where they can be fully human. We need to create workplaces where humans can be fully human in a sense, their highest potential of being a human. So I've always had that perspective, and I've tried to model it, and then I try to instill the values and get the culture. I spend a lot of time thinking about the culture. I sometimes think it's like a gardener. You got to look around. If there's a few weeds that you got to pull out, you got to pull them out. And there are other things you need to plant. And if you're the entrepreneur of your business, what you'll find out as your business grows, that the business begins to take on a lot of your own personality, the things that are good about you and the things that are not so good about you. And they just unconsciously model on the leader. It's just the way it works, just like kids model on their parents, and then later their peer group. That's what we are. Human beings are, we copy each other. So once you realize that, then you gotta get your own shit together.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I learned in leadership is that when I got stuck somewhere in my own life, oftentimes the company got stuck too. And when I got unstuck, that let the company move forward. So personal growth is very important. It really is. And it used to be seen as sort of narcissistic, we focused on that. Now you grow, not just for yourself, but you grow for your whole organization. So one of my goals is to continue to learn and grow until the day I die.
Yeah, great. So you're very transparent about many issues, and sometimes it makes people mad, or they criticize you, and the company can even become, Whole Foods can become the subject of resistance or boycotts. And so what can entrepreneurs here learn from you about handling criticism, dealing with the media, and dialoguing with people who may disagree with their perspectives?
Well, it's a tough question for me because, I tell the joke that I failed media training in Whole Foods Market 3 separate times. In media training, they always teach you to, look, decide what you want to say, and then just whatever they ask you, just bridge to it. Just bridge to, but the person asks me a question, I try to answer it truthfully and honestly and authentically. And that gets me in trouble sometimes. And I don't even care about people attacking me personally. You're welcome to attack me, I don't care. But they attack my baby. They attack Whole Foods, and they try to hurt Whole Foods. And for those of you that are parents, nothing upsets you more than having your kids attacked and beat up by bullies. So I've learned the hard way that I cannot be as open, particularly about politics in this society, as I once was. I wrote an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal back in 2009 that led about Whole Foods alternative to Obamacare, and it led to massive boycotts. You can still go into Facebook, 350,000 people signed a petition to boycott Whole Foods Market. There were petitions in our stores. There were thousands of letters that were sent to the board of directors demanding that I be fired. So we live in this incredibly interesting society now where if you say things that people don't like, they just smear you and they attack you. And it's made me, I don't want to say it's made a chilling effect, but I'm a little bit more careful about giving at least my political opinions in public. At least till I retire, then I'm going to go on a rampage.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.